So the statute of limitations would have run in 2024.
Michelle Stark-Kaufman has spent decades as a corporate attorney. She knows how the law works, including deadlines cities have to collect debts.
Every cause of action has its own statute of limitations.
It has to be paid for somehow.
When the longtime Kansas City resident saw our investigation last month into Kansas City's earnings tax collections, she says it sounded familiar.
I thought, same thing happened to me.
In February, she received a notice from a debt collector claiming she owed the city more than $1,400 tied to a 2018 audit assessment.
I couldn't figure out why I was getting something so far after the fact.
Michelle believes she paid years ago and questioned whether the city could legally collect a debt that old. She disputed the claim in writing.
To just receive a notice that you owe this tax and here's the penalty and interest without an explanation as to how it was calculated or what was wrong with your return, it makes it kind of impossible to know, is this right or is this not right?
In her letter, Michelle said it was the first notice she recalled and that the city shouldn't be able to collect unless it could prove it contacted her before the legal deadline.
I sent that letter in February and I haven't heard a response at this point.
Her complaint mirrors other taxpayers who contacted KCTV5. Complaints of surprise bills, unresolved disputes, and accounts sent to collections, leaving some worried about credit damage. In one case, a city finance manager acknowledged in writing that some statements were never mailed. How this system works matters because it applies to you. I filed several sunshine requests on how the city handles earnings tax collections. The finance department provided internal checklists, but had no vendor scorecards or oversight meeting minutes beyond its contracts. After repeated follow-up, the department produced a report showing how often referrals were later changed or reversed, data it previously said it didn't track. The year-by-year summary shows from 2019 to 2024, Kansas City received as many as 300,000 returns in a year. Of those, between 7 to 9% were sent to collections. Using the city's own counts, roughly 15 to 33% of those referrals later changed status, marked reversed or amended after referral. That's thousands of cases every year. The report does not explain why each referral changed, but finance noted that status changes can occur for different reasons, including updated taxpayer documentation or corrections such as payments applied to the wrong account or tax year. KCTV5 also obtained internal emails showing how city staff responded to our original reporting. One suggestion, offer a competing station an exclusive interview with questions provided in advance. Another, cut off on-camera interviews with KCTV5 entirely. Notably absent from those emails, any discussion of a review of the collections process. In a separate message, Assistant City Manager Tammy Queen wrote, "For what it's worth, we don't believe that there's an issue. This is standard operating procedure." The city's own data tells a different story. I asked Mayor Quentin Lucas whether those numbers warrant a closer review of the system.
What I would suggest is, and frankly what I think City Council asked after your reporting earlier this spring, was to say, how do we make sure we have the resources that we don't have these mistakes?
The mayor says council approved funding for additional tax auditors in March with the goal of catching problems. But when KCTV5 previously asked finance for any internal process audits or reviews, we were told the tax auditor position audits potential tax liabilities. The city auditor would be the oversight for an e-tax or revenue process, and no such audit has been completed.
We have a director of finance, we have a revenue director. It is very much within their authority to make sure that the system actually functions and works well. That is a first step.
But given their position on that,
right,
would you commit to an audit of the process of the e-tax system to ensure that it's working properly?
Yeah, here's my deal. I don't think I'm going to give a cop-out for someone to not do their job.
The mayor stopped short of calling for an independent audit. He says he does support more internal review and wants clarification on what checks are currently in place.
I'm not here saying the city's perfect, and indeed some of our answers absolutely aren't. But I think what I'm saying is that most people are trying to get it done right.
I don't know how they calculated this amount.
Michelle says she still hasn't heard back from the city. She supports the earnings tax, but says the data raises questions about how the city handles these cases.
You know, we all make mistakes. You know, I can't tell you how many times I send something out that isn't quite right, you know. Hopefully you get a chance to fix it.
Following our reporting, Finance told us it's making changes, beginning an annual review of how its collections vendor performs and planning to use its tax software to better track what happens after accounts are sent to collections. In Kansas City, Zach Summers, KCTV 5 News.